What's going on, traders? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're doing well. And of course, I hope you had a great week. So we had a bias last week where we identified USD strength. And I think we can all agree the markets did move in that direction. Later towards the end of the week, we did see a huge retracement on a lot of the moves. But what are we looking for this week? Well, my opinion is this, glancing over the markets, I still think we're going to see a continuation of that USD strength. I am starting to see some weakness with the yen, and I'm considering looking for potential buys on the euro. Now, we will have to go over the markets and understand the sentiment and see what's happening to really get a good picture of what we could be looking for. But I just want to say, for those that were able to take the analysis that we did last week, Sunday, and use it to their advantage, really well done and congratulations. I think you should be proud of yourselves. We want to be sticking to continuations because that's where we're going to get the most momentum, the least resistance, and ultimately in the long run, we're going to find the most consistency. So I hope you do enjoy the weekly Forex Outlook and reviews. And if you do, just take a second for me to like the video. Also, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider subscribing. And also, we post a video twice a week at this moment in time. So turn on those notifications for when we next send a video out. Or wait, upload a video. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's get on with the analysis. So the first pair we're going to take a look at today is Aussie dollar USD. Now, my opinion is this. I still believe, even after the big correction that we had this week, that we're going to have a continuation, which means we're going to continue to see that USD strength. Now, what I want to do here is I want to set an area in the market where I'm happy to see price trading below. And as long as price trades below this level, then I'm going to be happy to look for those continuation sells. So this is kind of like a safety net for me, or an identifier mark, that if price breaks above this level, then there's a high chance that we're going to continue to push bullish, which then, of course, in fact, illustrates to us that the dollar is weakening. If we trade below this level, then for me, that's an indication that price is going to continue bearish. So there are a couple of scenarios here that we have to look at. The first thing is this. We had this downtrend on the 4-hour time frame, which, of course, we anticipated last week. But what we've had for the first time is, if you notice here, is we've had a break of this brick wall. And after creating this break of this brick wall, look what we see here, a higher low formation. Now, that higher low formation could be an indication to us that the dollar is weakening. We may now start seeing a reversal on these market structures, and the trend may be shifting from bearish to bullish. But one of the things that we want to be looking for here when we're anticipating or looking to identify a trend change is higher lows being respected. Now, as we know, with an uptrend, you have higher highs and higher lows. We have a new higher high, and you can see here we've had this break of this higher low. That doesn't necessarily mean that this cannot continue higher. We have patterns that we call breakouts and break back ins, which is kind of a shift below a major key level and then a break back into that major key area. But the thing with this is this. We can see here that the previous structure of this market was highlighting to us, or this new structure of this market was highlighting to us that potential shift. And if we're going to respect an uptrend, then we want to respect the higher lows. We've broken that higher low. So for me, that is an indication that the momentum is still extremely strong to the downside, and the bias is more leaning towards a continuation of that USD strength. So that was the reason why I've decided that next week, I would like to focus more on sales more than anything else, or I should say sales only. And the couple scenarios that I'll be looking for here, of course, a pullback to this key level. And if you've been trading for a little while now, you will know that we'll classify this as a potential double top pattern or a deep pullback into a major key level before a continuation back to the downside. That doesn't necessarily need to happen. And to be brutally honest, that is a very deep pullback. But we do also have an area here in the market where price has created a low. This low is now tapping into an area in the market where it previously failed to break since the 13th of May. So we're talking about 5 weeks ago now. So the question is, do we have enough sellers in the market to see this market break this structure is the big question. If we can't break this structure, then there's a very high chance that we're going to find ourselves in a range until the market again shifts and finds a directional bias. So for me, what I would really want to see next week is a break of this level here around 68, 67. And then once we get that break below that level, I would really like to see a retest of this structure, or at least price trading below this structure here at 68, 67, to then be like, well, look, the sellers are in control. They haven't broken this level for about 5 weeks now. We've come back to it for a second time in the space of 2 weeks. Are the sellers going to break this? And if they are, then there's a very high chance that we're going to continue bearish. We're also going to have to gauge the market as well and take a look at some of the other dollar pairs to see if there's really a true sign or a sign of that dollar strength. But I think for now, this is my bias. Playing it a bit cautiously because of the deep pullbacks. But with the break of the higher low here, where we failed to break, I think we could say that if we're going to pick one bias, then sell bias is what it's going to be. So that will be my focus with Aussie dollar USD moving into next week. Next pair we'll take a look at is USDCAD. Now, we predicted these buys again, or this movement to the upside, and my bias on USDCAD is still buys. I don't like the structure because of the way it's extended itself. It hasn't really created those higher lows and higher highs, but it's not for me to like, I guess. I've just got to get the bias right, identify the indicators that I'm looking for before entering a trade, and then making a decision whether it's going to be a trade that I'm going to enter on or not. And I think for now, with the way this market sentiment is looking, I mean, looking at Aussie dollar USD and now USD CAD, we have to continue looking for buys. It makes no sense not to. The structures are not creating any lower lows or lower highs, indicating those downtrends. So I think what I would be working with personally is 2 levels. We again have the deep pullback level here, which is the current higher low in the structure. As long as price trades above this level here, then there's a very high chance that we'll continue back to the upside. It is a very deep pullback, and looking at the structure of this market, we haven't had those deep pullbacks for quite some time now. If we do pull back here again, I will be cautious. I'll be looking for those buys, of course, but again, I'll be looking at the sentiment of the market, taking a look at Aussie dollar USD, seeing if we are getting those pullbacks in line with USD CAD. And then if we are we getting those reactions from those key levels with those momentum shifts to add those complemences to the idea that we can bounce off of this level here at 28.71. Now, let's say we don't pull back to 28.71. What is the next level we'll be working with? Well, of course, we're going to be working with the simple break and retest level, which is this level here, and we'll put a marker to indicate what level that is. Now, I just want to say these levels are not levels where we're predicting it will bounce off of 29.84. We're just looking for it to come back into that area to show again a depletion in that bearish sentiment as it comes back to this level, and then look for those bullish signs to indicate that there's a high chance that it will continue higher. Now, again, we spoke about this last week, but I think I'm going to play on the side of caution here because the markets seem clear in terms of dollar strength. The structure's just not supporting it as much. So I'm not going to be looking or talking today about too many breaks or the highs. And then using scaling down techniques. Well, I mean, for now on USD CAD, I think we should wait for those pullbacks and then look for the continuations. Last week, we identified that the dollar was incredibly strong and that there'll be a very high chance that we don't get those pullbacks. So we use some scaling down techniques. I was certain of that then. I'm not certain of that now. When you're not certain, just play on the side of caution, wait for price to speak to you, develop the structures that you're familiar and comfortable with, and then take the trades. You can't trade based on FOMO every single time you come to the charts, meaning that if price is not going to pull back, then I'm going to just take the immediate continuations. I wouldn't exactly classify it as FOMO, but you'll be less anticipating that to happen based on the structures that we're starting to see with Aussie dollar USD, even though we're still buy bias on the dollar, or where you identify dollar strength. So that's my opinion. And I need to stop saying that because that's what I believe. But of course, that's not for you to worry about. That's for me to worry about. So that's my view on USD CAD. Let's take a look at Euro Yen. Euro Yen, we expected Yen strength last week. And I can say that we did see the Yen strength. The thing is, we had a push to the downside that wasn't sustainable. And then again, towards the end of the week, we've had this enormous explosive Euro strength. Now, is that necessarily Euro strength or is that Yen weakness? Well, as I mentioned in the beginning, I think we're going to see Yen weakness this week. With the structures, we don't have much evidence to really support that, but in terms of the market sentiment, we do. So my view on Euro Yen moving into next week is because of the yen weakness, we're going to have a continuation to the upside, following that sharp move that we had here after this downtrend was forming. So what am I looking for in this sequence? Well, I'm looking for price to break a structural high. At the moment, we're respecting this level, and this level is pretty important, to be honest with you. 141.82, price created a lower high. We've traded below it, made a continuation to the downside, which is a lower low, and we've pulled back to this level incredibly hard, which we'll call this a deep pullback, and now we're reacting. So we have a bullish sentiment, a depletion in that bullish sentiment, but we don't have that bearish momentum shift to indicate that we're going to rally back to the downside. So we're sustaining price at that level. So what I want to see next week, if the yen is really going to show signs of weakness, I do want to see a break of the structural high and a retest and then a continuation back to the upside. But mark my words, in order to take these buys, you will need to see that pound yen is also showing those signs. USDJPY, maybe not because of dollar strength, we shall see, but maybe Aussie dollar USD, Aussie dollar yen must also be showing those signs where we're seeing that yen weakness. If I don't get those confluences and we get a breakout here, we cannot just rely on the euro to be strong, because with euro USD, we're anticipating that dollar strength, meaning that that market should shift down. Whereas on the flip side, I'm anticipating euro yen to go up because I'm banking on yen weakness. So if the euro is strong, then in theory, we should see EURJPY and euro USD push to the upside. But if we don't, and we have euro yen pushing to the upside and euro USD to the downside, then we identify this as yen being weak, dollar being strong, and euro just being neutral. So be wary of that and make sure that you're looking over the markets to really gauge and understand what is happening this week. You only need to gauge the market strength and or weakness and the sentiment of the market for the day that you're trading. So for the period that you're trading, you don't need to forecast it how we're forecasting it now, because I always say this, and I don't know if I said it on the last one, but this analysis really only stands for about 24 to 48 hours until I then advise you to go and do your own due diligence and look over the markets again every morning and try to gauge what you can understand is happening in terms of the market sentiment. And I'll say this now while we're on this topic, this is just of my own opinion. So this is not financial advice. This is not signals. And of course, guys, I just want to say to you, trade responsibly. Don't go out there and start trading and remortgaging your property and taking money off your credit card just because Rock's ideas say this. They're not facts. They are just of my own opinion. So that's my views on euro yen. Do I want to see a pullback, higher low formation, and then a continuation? Don't think so. Because if we start pulling back now, we can just say that this is a range that the market is stuck in. And when the market is stuck or moving like this, where we're breaking highs, breaking lows, bouncing from key levels, usually that's a sign of no directional bias. So I don't want to see a higher low. I don't care for any pullbacks. I just want to see a break of 141.82. If we do, I want that evidence across the sentiment of the market, and then boom, let's see if we can continue high on euro yen. Next pair we'll take a look at is euro USD. Now, you can see similar structures here. We had that weakness in that euro, or shall we say we had that strength in the yen and the dollar. Euro was clearly weak. At the moment, we're also consolidating, which isn't reassuring when you're looking for buys on euro yen. But I guess this just really falls back to what we've been looking at for the majority of last week, or for the whole of last week, which is that dollar strength. Now, if I'm looking to sell this based on dollar strength, I'm banking on euro to be weak. So if euro yen doesn't push higher because of yen weakness, then I have to say to myself next week, should I trade based on dollar strength for the whole week, or should I play both and look for that yen weakness and or yen strength? That is something you're going to have to figure out, and is not easy. It sounds hard, but that is why you got to show up every day, do your research, take your notes, identify what happened in the morning, what happened at lunchtime, what happened in the evening, what happened through the Asian session. Gauge, make a decision. Do not, by any means, have two biases. Right now, we can do this because we're just doing the weekly Forex outlook and reviews. So we're trying to get an overview of what's happening and make sense of it. But when you come to the markets tomorrow, or you show up next week, you make sure you have one bias. So based on dollar strength, I'm going to say I'm looking for a continuation bearish. In order to see sells on this, I want to get out of this area here because it's horrible. Clearly, there's no strong evidence of buyers or sellers sitting between this area. So personally, I want to see price break this 104.05 level and then look for that retest and continuation. I'm not concerned about this breakout and break back in. As far as I'm concerned, this is an indecision. So I'm just focusing on the area where I see price tap into multiple times. If price breaks below this level, you need a minimum of a 4-hour candle close. You'll also need to see, again, across the sentiment of the market, a USD strength to support the idea of these continuation sells. I wouldn't go over to Euro Yen and rely on Euro Yen solely because you're looking for Euro weakness. Focus on the dollar pairs and see if the dollar pairs are in sync and there is synchronization across the sentiment of the market. So that's my bias on Euro USD. Next pair we'll take a look at is pound JPY. Now, clearly, I'm going to be looking for buys on pound JPY. I'm not calling out pound strength, but I am saying that I do think I can identify that yen weakness because we've had this movement to the downside, which was in line with our analysis last week, which was yen strength. We're now starting to create that consolidation. And again, that breakout and break back into this level here, which is this information, creating that indecision in that sell bias analysis. And then what we have here for the first time in a while is a break of this structural high. We broke above, we closed strong, and we continue higher. Now, for me to look for continuation buys based on yen weakness, there's two levels I'm going to be looking for here, which of course is going to be the consolidation where it previously broke out from and look for that continuation higher. If you're not comfortable looking for that retest and you really want to get that clear evidence of that yen weakness, then you're going to be looking for price to take out this high, which is a level in the market where prices failed to break again in this scenario or this structure where we have this bullish sentiment into this key level, the depletion, and now we see the market shifting back bearish at this moment in time. So these are the two plays that I'll be looking for next week. I would rather not trade between 166.11 and 164.14. I would want to see a really nice retest at this level and a deep retest at this level before that continuation. I mean, I prefer to go with the 166 break if I'm being brutally honest. Yeah, I think I'll prefer to go for the 166 break, but I don't want to say that I wouldn't look for buys off of 164. But what I won't do is trade any patterns between these two ranges. Don't care if I get some intraday low, higher lows, double bottoms, triple bottoms, just don't care. I'm looking for major deep pullback into this level. Well, it's not a major deep pullback, but a nice pullback into 164 and or a break of 166. So that's my analysis on pound JPY. Moving over to USDJPY. Now, who remembers last week I mentioned we shall see this week USD strength and yen strength. And if we get USD strength and yen strength together, what are we going to see? We're going to see a big fat range. And that is exactly what we saw. In saying that, we didn't give an analysis on a bias in terms of whether we're buying or selling. But what can we see happen towards the end of the week? Well, we had a major break of this level here to the downside. Based on these moves that I'm seeing, clearly, or maybe wrong, doesn't matter to me either way, to be honest, but this must be news inflicted, surely. Okay. But what happened immediately after we broke out of this? We had a huge correction. So we see two strong currencies come together, create that range. Something influenced the move to the downside, indicating that yen strength. And then what do we have now? A correction of that yen strength in line with our bias this week, which is USD strength and JPY weakness. So if we were to go for a bias, we would be saying that we're anticipating the market to push higher. So with the analysis that we're seeing across the sentiment in the market, in order to confirm that and have real faith that the market could continue higher based on that yen weakness and that dollar strength, we're going to want to see a break of this structural high at 135.59. Again, if we get a break above the structure here and a nice retest, or we can trade above this level for a decent period of time, and again, the market sentiment aligns with this bias, then I believe we are looking for buys next week on USDJPY. We shall see. I still think it's early days, but that is my analysis. Next pair we'll take a look at is USD Swiss franc. Now, we are seeing an incredible amount of Swiss franc strength across the market here. Don't know why. And this is what's really funny, is that we can see that USD is showing signs of strength. Usually when you have signs of strength and a lot of signs of strength, where it's predominantly showing that is strong in the markets, where there is just no deep pullbacks, there are just really subliminal higher lows. We're not even sitting at a level for a long period of time because we're rallying away from it. You know, we can say, yep, that is strong. Are we convinced this week that dollar is strong, that we can say, well, I don't think it's going to wait for us like we did last week? I don't know. This kind of makes me hesitate a little bit with the idea, but we can't go with anything else. That is why I've said from the beginning, from Aussie dollar USD, play on the side of caution, because yes, dollar is strong. Swiss franc is incredibly strong. But if the dollar is strengthening again, and let's just say this is a move that was caused because of news or a tweet or manipulation, whatever it may be, and the dollar is going to strengthen, then what I want to see, just to add those confluences in the market, is I want to see price continue to trade above 96.32. What does that mean for my analysis? Well, look, I don't think I'll be trading Swiss franc or USD Swiss franc next week, because I can't have the bias that I want to rely on USD strength, but yet see weakness here with Swiss franc and then revert to trade in Swiss franc strength. I much prefer to use this as like a roadmap and say, look, after this bearish move, if the dollar is strong, let's hold 96.32, even if we don't continue pushing higher next week. Let's just hold 96.32. And if we can hold this level here, then I will identify that as being the dollar is maintaining its strength, but just hasn't found its momentum yet to the upside, because the Swiss franc is also strong. If I see a scenario like that, then I would see the resistance, and then I can rely heavily on the fact that the dollar is definitely strong this week. Now, for sales, because I know some of you trade this, I mean, look, Swiss franc is strong. Take a look at here. You know, Swiss franc is very strong. Can you look for continuation sells? Of course you can. I mean, look, just because I would like to see something happen, it doesn't mean that I'm overlooking the fact that Swiss franc is strong and there is a very high chance it will continue bearish. I don't want to confuse you, but you guys are sure mature adults and you can understand my reasoning here. And I think as well, this is a great example of reasoning more than is necessary. I'm only doing this because I'm doing the weekly Forex outlook and reviews. If I wasn't doing the weekly Forex outlook and reviews, then I wouldn't rely on USD Swiss franc at all, if I'm being brutally honest. And if I was just looking at USD Swiss franc only based on the sentiment of the market with Swiss franc strength, I would also say I'm only looking for sells. So what I would say for those that do trade this, if price does break 96.32, then there is a very high chance we're going bearish. It is that simple. But if price holds 96.32, then I would just see that, not necessarily as buys. Don't look for buys just yet. There is no way you can buy USD Swiss franc, but I would look at that and say, wow, we've got that dollar strength. Let's start looking over at Aussie dollar USD, GU, Euro Yen, oh, sorry, Euro USD, whatever pairs you trade. Okay, that's my bias. So USD Swiss franc. Next pair we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar JPY. Oh, goodness me. The next pair that we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar USD. Now, we've had this bearish continuation again as anticipated. And we've also had structure here that is starting to take out the lower highs. This area here in the market is where price failed to break for quite a period of time. You know, we're looking at 4H candles here. And this is about 20 hours worth of information where price failed to break above 62.93. We finally had a very strong break above, and you can see that the market moved in terms of its range a lot more than the previous range of the candles that closed previously. This must have been news inflicted, surely. I haven't checked it, but surely it must be news inflicted, right? And now what do we see on this? We see the correction back to the downside, again highlighting to us that potential USD strength. So I'm sorry to say this, for those that have a different view, I have to maintain what I feel I have identified in the markets. And even though we're breaking these higher lows here, we're maintaining these higher lows, I still have the bias that this is going to continue bearish. But before I look for those continuation sells, I do want to see, again, based on my principles and my rules, I want to see this level be broken, because it is a higher low in this sequence. And with an uptrend, we have higher lows and higher highs. If price is pulling back to this level, we identify that as a deep pullback and or a double bottom pattern. And until we have broken 62.71, I'm not convinced we can continue bearish until we've wiped out the buyers from this market. And by the looks of it, there were a few of them, or a lot of them. So my plan with New Zealand dollar USD, not interested in a pullback. Dollar, are you strong? Yeah, okay. Let's break 62.71. Let's show that convincing evidence, and then let's continue bearish. That is my only play that I'm looking for next week on New Zealand dollar USD. Next pair that we'll take a look at is pound USD. This is identical to what we've just seen on New Zealand dollar USD. We've seen that continuation of that USD strength last week. All of a sudden, we've had this deep pullback on this market structure. By the looks of it, we're correcting that move. We just run out of time. I believe, again, USD strength is going to be dominant next week from what I can read from the market sentiment. We only have one battle here, or discrepancy. We're anticipating pound JPY to go bullish, which could signify pound strength. And then we're looking at pound USD and we're anticipating it to go bearish, which in theory is pound weakness. They two conflicting analyses here, right? But if you have the conflicting analysis, then what you need to be doing is thinking just outside the box slightly. Is pound strong or weak, or am I seeing more strength or weakness in the counterpart, i.e. yen weakness and or USD strength? Again, this is why you don't want to just jump in with your analysis and be like, this is what I think, this is what I can see based on the trend, based on the high time frames. You need to monitor the behavior when you're at your charts. What happened through the Asian session? What happened through the London session before trading the New York session? Is the market syncing with the analysis that USD is strong or yen is weak, or pound is showing signs of weakness? Then look for your levels, look for those momentum shifts, then scale down and look for those patterns, intraday structures, to add that extra confluence to the idea that the market is going to go in the direction you perceive it to go. For me, with pound USD, I'm looking for a break of this low again. This is the higher low in this sequence. Based on this structure, this is a higher high, higher low, higher high. You can't disregard the fact that it is a very short-term uptrend. If we're going to maintain that uptrend, then in theory, we should respect 21.26. But if we don't, and we get the continuation of that dollar strength, I'm looking for the break below and the continuation. My analysis may change on Tuesday. It may change on Wednesday. It is your duty to make sure you wake up every morning and you look at the markets and you do this kind of analysis to make sure you know which direction you're going. Don't wake up anymore just looking to press buy or sell because you want to pass your challenges, you want to make a little bit extra money, you want to quit your jobs, you want to build your small accounts. Get over it, guys. You have to be serious. You have to treat this like a business. Every day, wake up, prepare, get a good understanding of what's happening in the markets, and then start thinking about how you're going to trade in line with the analysis you've done. So that's my view on pound USD. Final one we'll look at is gold. Now, we said if we break the low, we continue bearish. We broke the low, we continue bearish, and we've had a huge correction on this again. We've broken back into the range. Because this is the weekly Forex outlook and reviews, I'm not going to talk about any intraday trading. From an intraday perspective, I'm not looking at none of this. To be safe, rather than sorry, with my bias on gold, I want to see price break above or below. Going a little bit more advanced in my analysis, I can tell you for a fact, last week, these moves here and these moves here got absolutely destroyed. Not by me, but by some of the mentors in the RoxFX Academy and by the students in the RoxFX Academy. Point I'm trying to make is that you can trade gold from an intraday perspective, but in terms of a long-term perspective and or a bigger picture, not long-term, I'm not a long-term trader, but from a bigger picture, boy, anybody planning to trade this, good luck to you. I'm sure you can figure it out. But my analysis is nothing right now. So my view on the markets, guys, I mean, look, I'll stop for a second and I'll think about this. I am identifying that USD strength still. I'm now seeing a flip from yen being strong last week to the later part of last week, now becoming weaker. There's ideas that euro could strengthen and or pound can strengthen as well. So it is a bit tough. And in terms of, let's say, Swiss franc strength, I think that is the only thing that is really predominantly standing out. I am going to stick to my bias, which is USD strength. I just want to just say to you guys and ladies, be cautious when it comes to the pound and euro pairs, because if there is a conflict or strength and or weakness that is clashing with each other, you might find yourself in a position, as we analyzed last week, where we had USD strength and yen strength, and you just get those completely sideways moving markets, or you get those markets that are just whipping up and down. Either way, take your time. Think about the trades that you're taking. Make sure they're high probability trading setups. Make sure that you're comfortable with the trades that you're taking, not out of FOMO, not out of, I need to pass my challenge, not out of, I just want to trade, not out of, I just have bad habits, so let me just do this. Cut it now. Like, it's finished, guys. You know, we're 6 months into 2022. You should have left that out the back door a long time ago. Take high probability trading setups. You need one trade, one good trade this week. That is all you need. Cut your losses early, enjoy your profits, and have an absolutely epic week. Again, if you enjoyed the weekly Forex Outlook and reviews, smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Turn on notifications. And as I always say, continue to trust the process.